Hey everyone, good evening and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. My name's Roger from the Expedition Project. We are back with another live and I've got a very special guest tonight. I just wanted to welcome you all. If you're watching this live, hit us up with some comments just to say exactly where you're watching this from in the world. If you're watching some replay, still feel free to send us your comments, your questions. We're going to do a Q&A after our guest speaker, which is Sue Swain from BioWise, and we're going to be talking all things biomimicry. Really, really excited about this. The first thing you need to do for now, though, is just pop a little comment just to say that you're watching it with us, say where you're watching it, and yeah, let's get started. And let's have a little bit of an intro to see what we're going to be talking about.
Imagine an experience that ignites the same spirit of adventure and pursuit of discovery as exploring the outer limits of space, but where the adventure lies not beyond our galaxy, but right here in exploring the extraordinary diversity and hidden depths of this planet. An experience that reveals how nature is a vast library of ingenuity we can learn from. A library filled with proven, real solutions for all our human development and sustainability challenges. Solutions based on the billions of years of research and development by the natural world's designers, architects, engineers, and scientists. This is the science of biomimicry, the practice of learning from and emulating nature's genius. Biomimicry is at the forefront of innovation. It is the next revolution, the natural revolution. Now, imagine the place that brings all this to life, that showcases and fuels this natural revolution. A place that brings the same kind of enchantment, thrills and magic to the world as Disney intended, but where the wonder does not lie in the realm of make-believe, but in the reality of nature's genius and the value of this genius to us.
Welcome, Sue. Thank you so much for joining us. Sue and I have known each other for 15 years. I met her way back and was so inspired when she first taught me all about biomimicry. And it wasn't just the topic that inspired me, but her passion was just unbelievable. Sue, good evening and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much, Roger. It's fantastic for us to be in contact again after so many years. And I'm really excited to be given this opportunity to share my passion. So thanks very much for that.
Really looking forward to it. So this is going to be the first in a series of live streams which are connected to something that Sue and I have been working on, which is called Biomimicry Online. It's going to be a series of modules teaching you all about the amazing concept of biomimicry. But for tonight, it's not just going to be Sue and I on the panel discussing things with you. Let's have a little look and see who else is going to be joining us.
Allow me to introduce some of the stars of our show. First up, a few of our PhD graduates, our doctors in physics who have both specialized in the field of cutting-edge nanotechnology, followed by our doctors in the chemical sciences, specifically chemical engineering and materials science, both of whom just happen to be professors of benign chemistry. Then we have our professional designer who has mastered the art of multifunctional design, while the marketing and advertising expertise of these two has everyone abuzz with excitement. Not to be outdone, our brilliant architects and engineers have trade secrets to reveal, game-changing ones at that. Our specialist manufacturers can teach us a thing or two about radical resourcefulness, while our energy experts, well, they have a wealth of knowledge to share in terms of efficiency and energy generation. Given recent developments, the innovative strategies of two of our medical advisors are likely to be the talk of the town. And lastly, we have our community consultants who are dying to share their fresh approach to town planning and their proven socio-economic model. All of these stars have one thing in common, and it's something we share in too. So without further ado, let the show begin.
I love that. I love that. So clever. So Sue, I believe you've got a little bit of a presentation introduction you're going to run through us tonight.
Yep, indeed I do.
Fantastic.
Can we go for it?
Yeah, no, you get that set up. So while Sue's just getting her presentation ready, just a reminder that we're going to chat, and Sue's going to do a little bit of a chat for about 7 minutes or so, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take some questions. So get your questions ready, watch the presentation, and then basically, yeah, we'll get some of your questions from the audience. So anything you want to know about biomimicry, and let's get this started. Okay, Sue, your presentation is up and running and looking great.
Excellent, thanks very much. So from that sneak preview, you would have noticed that we are surrounded by genius. Consummate architects, engineers, designers, scientists, you name it, who are infinitely resourceful and inherently resilient. And you know, Leonardo Da Vinci, I nearly said Leonardo DiCaprio, Leonardo Da Vinci already noticed this way back in the 1480s. And he's absolute awe for nature's inventiveness came through in his quote where he said, in her or nature's inventions, nothing is lacking and nothing is superfluous. And he actually went on to be one of the first instinctive biomimics who he intentionally turned to nature to act so that he could better design. And he had this idea that people would one day be able to fly, and basically studied both birds as well as bats and maple seeds, which then he used to actually come up with his conceptual design for his flying machine, which he called the ornithopter. And this was some 450 years before the Wright brothers then adopted the same approach, where they started to study birds. And they noticed how birds soar into the wind, how the air flowing over the curved structure of their wings, curved surface of their wings actually creates lift, and how birds would even change the shape of their wings to turn and maneuver. And learning those avian lessons and applying those, they obviously came up with the first flying machine, the first motorized airplane that took to the skies in 1903. And in 1948, we had a Swiss engineer who had been to on a walk in the woods, came home and discovered that his clothes and his dog were covered in burrs. And being an engineer, he was naturally curious. So he decided to look at those burrs under the microscope. And he saw these fascinating hooks and barbs, which sparked an idea. And he teamed up with a material scientist. And 7 years later, in 1955, I'm sure you've guessed it, the multi-billion-dollar industry of Velcro was basically birthed, all thanks to the ingenuity and design of a burdock seed pod. So these are early examples of biomimicry as an approach to innovation. And the word itself is derived from the Greek word bios, which means life, and mimesis, which means imitation. The one simple word describing it simply as imitating life. And it was actually coined by Janine Benyus, who wrote the seminal book on biomimicry, in which she discussed and highlighted these innovations from around the globe that had all turned to nature for their inspiration. And after that, she teamed up, after having written the book, she teamed up with Dana Baumeister, and they together established the organization, which is now known as Biomimicry 3.8. And together, they really formalized the practice of biomimicry into this as an approach to design and innovation. And they defined it as the conscious emulation of nature's genius. And I think those are some really important words there, where it's the conscious emulation is about the intentionally going out there to learn from and then emulate nature's genius. And that emulation is important. It's not just a superficial copying of nature's ideas, but where you have a more meaningful application of the principles you've discovered. And the reason for this is essentially was to solve human design and sustainability challenges. And they also then identified three essential elements of biomimicry. that are essential for us if we're going to be able to design and live sustainably. And these are reconnect, emulate, and ethos. Reconnect is really about going out and discovering our deep connections with nature so that we can better understand and learn from and emulate nature. But it's all encapsulated or held within this guiding framework of the ethos, which is the underlying philosophy, the intention, the reason why we do biomimicry. And this they described as the deep desire to fit in on Earth. And this ethos is critically important because it's what determines whether our nature-inspired innovations are as nature intended them to be, which is appropriate to living on Earth. And Janine also highlights a concern, a potential concern around this when she mentions that, you know, we enjoyed the miracle of flight for the first time in 1903. And by 1914, we were already dropping bombs from the skies. So that's really food for thought. And it's this brand of biomimicry from Biomimicry 3.8 with their depth of insight and their philosophy and these three essential elements that form the backbone of our course. So those three elements are exactly, we focus on those, the reconnect, emulate, and ethos. But we have a slightly different focus and approach to biomimicry, where we value biomimicry not so much as an approach to innovation and design, but actually as a way of life, a way of being. Saying that this is something that we could then all of us be doing every day in everything that we do, and where these essential elements are actually now viewed as essential life skills, where we go out and we live that ethos of desiring to fit in every day, where every day we go out and intentionally reconnect with nature. And every day we also actively seek to learn lessons from that we can apply into our everyday living, which means that this makes in biomimicry something relevant to everyone. So in addition to the architects, engineers, entrepreneurs, designers, scientists out there, it's for every one of us who wants to basically live differently and contribute positively. And that's an essential, an important part of our course is also the fact that we turn to the community of life as a collective, and value them as our living guide to living wisely. Because the individual ingenuity of all these organisms is astounding. But it's what they achieve as a collective, how they come together in these ecosystems in which they live and work together to ensure the healthy and functioning of that ecosystem, that really contains within that all those actions, this earth-savvy wisdom, which is what we can then use to guide us into living wisely and contributing positively. And when it comes to that reconnecting, it's about us really addressing the disconnects that we have with our planet, with life around us, and with even ourselves as earth-based living beings. We've really lost touch. But for purpose of our course, the reconnecting is essentially a reawakening of our connectedness. Because although we might have separated ourselves from nature intellectually, we are inseparably and inescapably connected. And just reawakening that connectedness is an important part. But also there's more, because we have the opportunity to reestablish relationship with life. And by doing that, the whole purpose of the course is so that we can learn not only to live wisely and regeneratively and contribute positively, but that we may also live in full, meaningful, and deep relationship with all of life. So I'm going to leave it there, Roger, and opening it up now to hopefully questions that will come from the floor, and it's back to you.
Okay, fantastic, Sue. That's great. So, you know, listening to that, it's a lot of sort of these words that are coming through: reconnecting, reawakening, rediscovering. So this is obviously a principle that it was around before, but now, as you're sort of saying, we've just gradually lost it. Is that a good sort of way of thinking about it?
Yeah, I often find when people are first introduced to the concept, Roger, they describe it as a reawakening, this aha moment, because it simply makes sense. And I really believe it's because, we are earth-based beings. We're born of this planet. We're genetically wired to get how to live wisely on Earth. But we've just kind of consciously separated ourselves from that. And that's why biomimicry is very much this reawakening and this reconnecting. You'll see that throughout the course, one of the things we focus on is what happened. How did we come to be so disconnected? How did we come to have fallen out of relationship with life? And part of the course is how to then reestablish that relationship and reconnect with life again.
So just a reminder to everyone watching this live, send us in your questions for Sue. So if there's anything you'd like to know about biomimicry or anything she's been speaking about, please send us in your questions. If you're watching on replay, still feel free to post your questions in the comments and we can always reply. It won't obviously be a live reply, but we can still get back to you. But we've had some questions been sent in advance. There's another one here. You sort of mentioned that biomimicry brings about a new valuing of nature in the courses that you started developing now. Do you want to explain this a little bit more?
Yeah, what biomimicry has been described is this new valuing that comes from when we recognize that we can be learning from and applying lessons from nature. We no longer view nature now just as this warehouse of resources that we just exist for us to extract from, but rather start viewing it as a library of solutions we can learn from. And with the course, we're also valuing life as a living guide to helping us live wisely and well on Earth. So that's where that new valuing or reawakening of the valuing that we always had for life. I mean, our ancestors lived closely. The planet was known as Mother Earth at some stage, but yeah, something happened, and that we'll cover in the course.
Do you think over the last year, when everyone, has probably had to reevaluate a lot of their life and their surroundings, do you think a concept like biomimicry now, it just could not be more relevant?
Absolutely. I think the one thing that most people felt was the value of just being outdoors and connecting with nature in the outdoors. And that is an essential element of biomimicry. And absolutely, I think more and more people are becoming aware that we cannot continue living like we are. And essentially nature has a solution. Nature's been getting it right for 3.8 billion years. So best we kind of learn from that evolved wisdom and ingenuity to get it right ourselves.
It's that phrase I heard you use once, which is nature's library of solutions, which I absolutely loved. And it's such a good way of looking at it because, in essence, the solutions are all there, really, aren't they?
Yeah, we don't need to reinvent the wheel at all. Pretty much every single design and sustainability challenge we're facing, nature has already got there. They've already solved that and solved it with an elegant simplicity that is simply mind-boggling. It's that evolved wisdom that they've figured out in 3.8 billion years. They've managed to figure out what it takes to thrive on Earth. And it's us learning with humility how to tap into that. So those are some of the key phrases you'll hear all the time is having curiosity. I mentioned the curiosity of Georges de Mistral for his manufacturing of Velcro, but also that humility. It's that humility that was first expressed in those words of Leonardo Da Vinci that we need to bring in today. And unfortunately, that's the one thing we do tend to struggle with because, look, we are a clever species, but we haven't yet evolved that cleverness and intelligence into wisdom. And that's where we need to really consult nature to how to do that, yeah.
So another question I got sent in advance, you may have sort of answered a bit of this already. I don't know if there's anything else you want to elaborate on, but the question is, with biomimicry, the emphasis is about learning from nature. Can you explain how this is different from the normal way we study nature?
Yeah, great. Rod, do you maybe have that one image,
Yes,
the two images I showed about the termite mound. That'll help. Thanks. So the traditional approach to studying nature is we tend to learn about nature, where we will, name, we will identify, we'll describe the physical attributes and how they live, maybe feeding habits, reproduction. Whereas the transition from learning about to learning from is basically saying, well, from the termite mound, we could actually learn the art of regulating temperature, how to manage ventilation, build adaptively, how to contribute to the surrounding system. So I don't know if you can see it's not saying that we shouldn't learn about, of course, it's valuable to know which species we're talking about, but shifting that into and changing the focus to saying, well, right, what could we actually learn from this, as opposed to just learning about it.
No, that's amazing. Okay, let's have a look and see if we got any other questions that's come in advance. So the ethos of biomimicry is a way of being. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we speak about, put in its simplest term, the ethos of biomimicry in general is the desire for us to fit in on Earth. And that those are key, that all of those words are really important. The desire is we must want to do this. If we don't want to do it, we're not going to have that happen. And then to fit in on Earth really highlights the fact that we're not fitting in currently. But in addition, I think to fitting in is also with biomimicry as a way of being, we're looking at how in my everyday life can I also contribute, but also feel like I belong. I think one of the big things, who is it, Giles Hutchins, he wrote the book called Future Fit, and in which he mentions that psychologists are increasingly recognizing that our sense of separation is what actually underpins all the socioeconomic challenges and problems we're facing, from climate change to consumerism and everything. But I also think that separation from nature has resulted in this loneliness that we're experiencing as a species as well. We feel lost and alone. And I think that's evident in our obsession with social media, our almost compulsive need to connect with each other all the time. And we've lost a meaningful connection. It's the nature of that connection, which isn't cool at all. And so I think what biomimicry also gives us is a sense of belonging, where that focus is on the relationships we can develop.
Fantastic. Here's one more question that came in advance. So what is one word that you feel captures the essence of biomimicry as a way of being or a way of life?
For me, it would be relationship. Really establishing that relationship, which is more than just reconnecting. It's actually saying the opportunity is for us to live in deep relationship with the rest of life. And I think that's really what excites me. In addition to the innovations that we can come up with, is that deep sense of belonging that awaits us when we really apply biomimicry and those three elements as life skills, something we apply every day.
And when you say with the rest of life, do you mean nature and people and just everything?
Yes, absolutely. The whole of life and our planet itself. The planet, when you start to get to grips with our planet, it really is this living organism where the living and what we call the non-living elements are seamlessly working together. So all of that is what awaits. And yes, obviously also connecting more meaningfully with ourselves as a species, because now we'd have the sense of purpose, because now we're actively contributing. It's reintegrating ourselves back into that community of life. We have somehow separated ourselves from it intellectually. We cannot separate ourselves physically and physiologically, but intellectually we have, and it's about stepping back and basically being embraced by that community of life and feeling like a meaningful, contributing player in that community of life.
So we've got a few more minutes with Sue, so feel free to send in any more questions you've got so we can ask Sue live. Don't worry though, if you don't have any questions this time around, this will be the first of many. But as Sue was sort of alluding there, we've set up Biomimicry Online, which is a series of online modules. It's not an online course that is one big long course that's going to take you, hours and hours and loads of money. We've broken it down into little manageable chunks, so it's broken up into modules. And I don't know, Sue, if you want to just elaborate on the three modules we've got sort of ready so far. One is Biomimicry as a Way of Being. The second one is Rediscovering Our Planet, and then the third one is Reconnecting with Earth. So you've broken these down so nicely into such manageable chunks, and there's parts where we're watching some videos, doing some reading some articles, doing some exercises, doing some fun quizzes. Do you want to break up those three modules into a couple of sentences each?
Sure. The first one is really to explain the introduction to biomimicry as a way of being, because it's a slightly different approach from the most of the courses out there that focus on biomimicry as an approach to innovation. So it's really to help us understand that and what's involved with that. And you'll remember from some of the slides in this presentation tonight, we spoke about the importance of reconnecting with our planet, with the rest of life, and with ourselves as our own species and as earth-based living beings. And so that's how we've divided. So that the second module is about reconnecting with Earth, really getting to grips with our planet. It's the Earth's operating conditions, because we've lost touch with that. We would never be living the way we do live if we were in tune with Earth's operating conditions. So it's really helping us to get back in tune with that. And that's where there are a number of exercises, because remember, biomimicry as a way of life is that it's something that we need to consciously try and strive to do every day. And then the reconnecting with life on Earth, I have specifically made that one first looking at reconnecting with self, so that we understand who we are ourselves, because that ethos of fitting in, that desire to fit in, is going to also have to come with a mindset change, changing our perception. So we look very much into why we've got to where we find ourselves now, in order that we may move forward. So future modules will then be actually looking at reconnecting with other life, with the community of life on Earth, and then discovering how we can actually start learning from life as our living guide to living wisely.
So these modules are available over at theexpeditionproject.com. The nice thing about these online courses is, it's mimicking biomimicry in itself, in that we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are taking a different approach, as Sue mentioned, but we also, linking back to some of the other amazing, opportunities that are out there, and people that are out there, and courses that are out there, which is, the ethos of the Expedition Project, and obviously BioWise as well. Sue, is that probably a good way to sum it up?
Yeah, perfectly. It's about complementing what's out there and raising awareness of all the amazing things that one could do to get involved and start practicing biomimicry. And this course is really intended as an introduction for people, and for architects and engineers. It would provide a great foundation to then go into the more formal practice and courses out there that are on offer. So yeah, it's definitely, we're doing it biomimetically. You've got it spot on there.
and actually, that led me into the next question, which is, who could take advantage of a course like this? Who would it benefit, do you think?
Look, seriously, anyone, but obviously your architects, your engineers, your designers, but anyone who really feels the need, who is caught up with sustainability and understanding the need for us to start living lives that are sustainable. But that is not one of my favorite words, because I think we're capable of so much more than just trying to sustain things or sustain the status quo. So it's anyone who just feels a bit burdened by how we're currently living, who recognize the consumerism, the throwaway society, recognize we're drowning in waste. What can we do about it? What can I do about it where I am, in my home, in my community? So it's for students, it's for scholars, it's for, is that still a term, housewives, anyone, moms, dads, getting everyone really talking about it and starting to see, because reconnecting with life is something we all need to do. And we've seen that as a result, throughout this COVID time, how important that is. But we can take it to the next level as well, where we can become an integral part of this community. There's a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Almost depression out there. People are concerned, how do we do this? It feels overwhelming. And this is like almost a step-by-step guide where we can daily start making those differences and feel like we're contributing. And I really believe our future as a species is for us to not only become integrated back into the community of life, but to find a way of becoming integral to that community. How are we contributing positively? And that's something we can all do.
And the nice thing that I noticed with the modules is that it's not one-way learning. It is any participants can submit questions, they can submit ideas, and it can kind of start to build this community and start to sort of collaborate on potentially future modules, future ideas, what they've noticed, what they've learned, what they've really attached onto, different sections more than others and everything, which is amazing. It's not literally watching videos, taking notes, and that's it.
Yeah, thanks for that, Roger, because I think that's a really important part of it, is that everybody can contribute to the development of the course and to making it more meaningful, because there might be some ideas from my side of exercises that people can do that work for me, doesn't necessarily work for you, but it might work for another person, and something that they do and they share. We all start getting aha moments from each other. Because, I continue to learn every single day, and yeah, so absolutely. And also we always speak in biomimicry terms, we speak about being attuned and responsive, and giving, also course participants the opportunity to even ask for additional modules, that this is something that really interests them. Either we can, generate a new module, or we could point them in the direction of somebody who's already got something happening out there that could feed that need. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So there's 3 ways you can kind of get involved or get active or get started now. And we're going to be doing these as sort of monthly catch-ups with Sue and myself, where we can discuss what modules have been released, what some of the questions and thoughts that have come in. So the plan would be to do this every month, but for next month, there won't be one specifically like this. And that's because Sue's participating in the Wildlife Conservation in South Africa online conference that we've got on the 5th and 6th of June, sorry, the 6th of June. I can't actually even believe it's June already. So please do sign up for that. There's tickets are for sale on the Expedition Project website. It's a fundraising conference, so this all goes back to the organizations and the speakers that are participating, and it's all just to assist a little bit for charities, NPOs, social enterprises, game reserves and such that have really been struggling because of COVID and the lack of tourism in South Africa. So it's a fantastically innovative and worthwhile conference. So do sign up for that. And during that conference, Sue's got a slot where she'll be talking in a little bit more detail about the fantastic concept of biomimicry. And thereafter, the month after that, we'll get back into the monthly lives again and catch up with Sue again. The other way is just to go and check out the course and get started. So there's 2 modules live at the moment. The 3rd one's just about to go live, and there's more to come after that. So get started with that. And start to send us in questions from these lives and send us your thoughts. It's just been a fantastic introduction. Sue, thank you so much for joining. It's really been great to speak to you. Could speak to you for hours about this, but it's a great class, I think. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Roger. Great to connect, and thanks for the opportunity.
No worries.
And thanks everyone who tuned in.
Thank you very much, everyone. Just remember, if you're watching us on replay, still get commenting, post any ideas and thoughts. We'll be back again. Thank you so much for joining us. Check out theexpeditionproject.com for Biomimicry Online, more live streams, and the Wildlife Conservation in South Africa conference coming up next month. Have a great rest of your evening, everyone. Thank you. See you again.
Thank you. Cheers.